The car was silent. Just the engine's hum. And John Wayne looked at the young girls in his rearview mirror, then spoke one sentence that would change their world forever. Arizona. 1971. Highway 89 cutting through the desert like a scar. Heat waves rising off the asphalt. Nothing for miles except scrub brush and distant mountains, and the kind of emptiness that makes people think about their lives. John Wayne was driving his pickup truck north from Tucson. 64 years old. Alone. A brown leather jacket despite the heat. Cowboy hat tilted back. Hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, the way he'd driven for 40 years. He wasn't supposed to be driving himself. His people had told him to take the car service. But Wayne didn't like being driven. Never had. Something about sitting in the back seat while someone else controlled the wheel made him feel like cargo. So he drove. Window down. Desert air hot against his face. Radio off. Just the road and the silence and his thoughts. He saw them 2 miles before he reached them. 2 figures on the roadside. Thumbs out. The universal gesture of the stranded and desperate. Wayne's foot eased off the gas pedal instinctively, his eyes narrowing as the distance closed. 2 young women. Maybe 20, 22 years old. One blonde, one brunette. Jeans and simple blouses. A single duffel bag between them on the gravel shoulder. They looked tired. More than tired, hollow. Like they'd been walking for days. Wayne passed them. Kept driving. His hands tightened on the wheel. He made it another quarter mile before his foot found the brake. The truck slowed. Stopped. Sat idling on the empty highway for 15 seconds while Wayne stared at the road ahead and had a conversation with himself that no one else would ever hear. Then he put the truck in reverse. Wayne didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The girls watched the truck back up toward them with expressions caught between hope and fear. In 1971, hitchhiking was common enough, but so was danger. You never knew who would stop. You never knew what they wanted. Wayne pulled alongside them and leaned across the bench seat to roll down the passenger window manually. The crank handle squeaked. "Where you headed?" His voice was exactly what you'd expect, gravel and leather and 40 years of cigarettes. The blonde girl spoke first, her voice tentative. "North. As far north as you're going. Running from something or towards something?" The question hung in the desert air. The brunette girl's jaw clenched. The blonde looked down at their duffel bag. "Does it matter?" the brunette finally said, her voice carrying an edge of defiance that barely masked fear. Wayne studied them for a long moment. Saw things in their faces he recognized. Saw things he'd spent a lifetime trying not to see in mirrors. "Get in," he said. They hesitated. The brunette's hand moved to the blonde's arm protectively. Sisters, Wayne thought. Or close enough. "I'm not going to hurt you," Wayne said, and there was something in the way he said it, not a promise, not a plea, just a statement of fact delivered with the weight of a man who never had to prove his word, that made them believe him. They got in. The blonde by the door, the brunette in the middle. The duffel bag between the brunette and Wayne. The door closed with the heavy thunk of 1970s American steel. Wayne put the truck in gear. They drove. For the first 10 miles, nobody spoke. The brunette stared straight ahead through the windshield. The blonde looked out the window at the passing desert. Wayne kept his eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was necessary. Like the desert itself, vast and empty and honest. Wayne broke it first. "You girls eatin' today?" The brunette shook her head slightly. "There's a diner about 30 miles up. I'll buy you lunch." "We don't need charity," the brunette said, that edge still in her voice. "Didn't offer charity. Offered lunch. Different thing." The blonde spoke quietly. "We don't have money to pay you back. Wasn't asking you to." More silence. The engine hummed. The desert rolled past. Wayne glanced at them in the rearview mirror, caught the brunette's reflection staring at him. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second before she looked away. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. 20 miles north of where he picked them up, Wayne spoke again. You know who I am? The blonde glanced at him, then away quickly. Yes, sir. Figured you might. Most people do. He adjusted his grip on the wheel. That gonna be a problem? Why would it be a problem? The brunette asked. Sometimes people get nervous. Or they want something. Autograph. Story. Proof they met John Wayne. He said his own name like it belonged to someone else. Rather you tell me now if that's why you got in the truck. We got in the truck, the brunette said, because we've been walking for 2 days and you were the first person who stopped who didn't look at us like we were meat. Wayne nodded once. Fair enough. The diner appeared like a mirage. Low building, gravel parking lot, 2 other cars and a semi-truck parked outside. Wayne pulled in, killed the engine. The sudden silence was profound. Come on, he said, opening his door. They followed him inside. The waitress looked up, did a double take when she recognized Wayne, started to say something, then saw the look on his face and thought better of it. She just pointed to a booth in the back corner. Wayne ordered coffee and 3 plates of the special without asking the girls what they wanted. They didn't object. When the food came, meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, the girls ate like they hadn't seen food in days. Maybe they hadn't. Wayne barely touched his plate. He drank coffee and watched them eat and didn't say anything. When they were finished, the brunette finally looked directly at him. Why did you stop for us? Felt like I should. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. She studied his face. Wayne let her. He was used to being studied. 64 years old, 5 decades in front of cameras, he knew what it meant to be looked at. But this was different. This girl wasn't looking at John Wayne the movie star. She was looking at something else. You feel guilty about something, she said. It wasn't a question. Wayne's coffee cup paused halfway to his mouth. He set it down carefully. What makes you say that? The way you drive? The way you look at the road like you're trying to outrun something. The way you stopped for us even though you didn't want to. She leaned back in the booth. I know that look. I see it in the mirror. The blonde touched her sister's arm. Sarah. It's okay, Em. Sarah, the brunette, kept her eyes on Wayne. We're running from our stepfather. He's been hurting Emma for 3 years. I found out 6 months ago. We tried telling people. Nobody believed us. He's a deacon at the church. Respected man. So we left. Took what we could carry and left. The diner seemed to shrink. Wayne's jaw worked, but he didn't speak. So yeah. Sarah continued, her voice steady despite the tears forming in her eyes. We're running from something. And you look like you've been running from something your whole life too. Away from the cameras, Wayne made a choice no one expected. Wayne was silent for a long time. The waitress refilled his coffee without speaking. The cook moved pots in the kitchen. A truck passed on the highway outside. When Wayne finally spoke, his voice was lower than before. Rougher. 1942, he said. I was 35 years old. War started. Every man I knew enlisted. Every one of them. Directors I worked with. Actors I'd done pictures with. My brother. They all went. He paused. Picked up his coffee cup just to have something to hold. I had a deferment. Family. Career. Studio told me I was worth more to the war effort making movies that boosted morale. Told myself that was true. Told myself I was doing my part. His hands tightened on the cup. I never went. Never put on a uniform. Never saw combat. And every man who came back, every one who survived, looked at me different. Knew I'd stayed home while they'd gone to hell. Sarah and Emma were completely still. I've spent 30 years, Wayne continued, trying to make up for that. Playing soldiers. Playing heroes. Playing men who did what I didn't do. And it's never been enough. You understand? It'll never be enough. He looked at Sarah directly. You asked why I stopped for you. I stopped because I've spent my whole life not doing the hard thing when it mattered. And when I saw you two standing there on that road, I had a choice. Drive past or stop. One more chance to do something real instead of something pretend. The silence that followed was absolute. Emma spoke for the first time since the diner, her voice barely above a whisper. My father, my real father, died in the war. Okinawa. 1945. I never met him. Wayne's eyes closed briefly. He was a hero, Emma continued. That's what my mother always said. He was a hero and he died being a hero and I should be proud. She wiped her eyes. I am proud. But I also spent my whole life wishing I had a father who was alive instead of a hero who was dead. And then my mother married our stepfather, and he seemed nice at first, and then... She couldn't finish. Wayne reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his wallet, opened it, and withdrew something small, a black and white photograph, creased and worn from years of being carried. He placed it on the table. The photograph showed a young man in military uniform. Maybe 25 years old. Serious face. Clear eyes. The kind of photograph families kept on mantels and showed guests with quiet pride. My brother Robert, Wayne said. He made it through the war. Barely. But he made it. Came home different. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't hold a job. Drank himself to death by 1950. He was 32 years old. He looked at the photograph like it might speak back. I went to his funeral, Wayne said. Stood at his grave. And I couldn't cry because all I could think was that I should have been the one who went. Should have been the one who saw what he saw. Maybe if I'd gone, he would have stayed home. Maybe he'd still be alive. Sarah reached across the table slowly and touched the photograph with one finger. You've been carrying this for 20 years? 21. Why? Same reason you're running from your stepfather. Same reason Emma survived 3 years of hell before you found out. Sometimes the weight we carry is the only proof we're still trying to be better than we were. But what followed would stay with everyone who witnessed it, forever. Wayne picked up the photograph and put it back in his wallet. Placed 3 $20 bills on the table, enough to cover the meal 4 times over. Here's what's going to happen, he said, his voice carrying the quiet authority of a man who'd made a decision. I'm driving to Flagstaff. There's a woman there, Katharine Hepburn's cousin, actually, who runs a shelter for women in situations like yours. I know her. She's good people. She'll help you get set up. New names if you need them. Jobs. Place to stay. We can't. Sarah started. You can. You will. Wayne stood up from the booth. I spent 30 years playing make-believe heroes. Today I'm going to do one real thing. You're going to let me. They drove the remaining 80 miles to Flagstaff in silence. But it was a different silence now. Not empty. Full. The shelter was a modest house on a quiet street. Wayne parked out front. Walked them to the door. A woman in her 50s answered, saw Wayne, saw the girls, understood immediately without needing explanation. Take care of them, Wayne said quietly. Always do, Duke. Wayne turned to leave. Sarah caught his arm. Thank you, she said. For stopping. For believing us. For. She couldn't find the words. Wayne reached into his wallet one more time. Withdrew the photograph of his brother. Looked at it for a long moment. Then handed it to Sarah. You hold on to this, he said. Remind yourself that carrying weight doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes it means you're strong enough to still be standing. Sarah took the photograph with trembling hands. But this is your brother. Was my brother. Now he's a reminder that doing the right thing late is better than never doing it at all. Wayne tipped his hat. You take care of each other. He walked back to his truck. Didn't look back. started the engine and drove away while Sarah and Emma stood on that porch holding a photograph of a soldier who died 30 years ago. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. 23 years later, in 1994, Sarah's daughter wrote a letter to a film historian researching John Wayne's life. She included the photograph. Said her mother had kept it on her nightstand until the day she died. Said Emma had gotten married, had 3 kids, built a life. Said John Wayne never knew that stopping on a desert highway in 1971 had saved 2 lives. The photograph is now in the John Wayne Museum in Iowa. Next to it, a small plaque. Sometimes the man was bigger than the myth. Wayne never spoke about that day. Never told the story. Died 8 years later without knowing those girls had made it. But he'd known something else. Doing one real thing matters more than a lifetime of pretending.